A so-called witch by the name of Molly Simpson from England went viral after revealing the things she saw in a ritual. The host asks her about her childhood. Let's watch this clip.
And boom, we're on. And today's guest, we've got Molly Simpson. Molly, how are we?
I am very well. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on the show. I seen you on my very good friends podcast, Tony Morell. The Good, the Bad, the Ugly.
Yes.
For people, go and check it out. Good friend of mine, great guy, great podcast.
Yes,
Very fascinating story.
Mm-hmm.
You say you're a witch.
I am.
You're involved in a satanic program, a satanic club that you call it.
I call it the club, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of death threats, a lot of madness.
Photographs, messages, all kinds of stuff.
And now here we are.
Here we are. Hopefully I don't die.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't, don't be saying that shit. But before we get into all the madness though, I always like to go back to the start of my guests.
Okay.
Get more of a bit of understanding about you, Molly, where you grew up and how it all began.
So I didn't have a great childhood, me. My mum was a drug addict, very abusive relationship with my stepfather. I was treated very differently to my brother. My brother had quite a well-to-do dad. So he looked after him, basically, and my mum knew she couldn't do anything to him. So she took a lot of frustrations out on me. Really, we were beaten. I was drugged more than once, so she could party all night. Didn't really have birthdays, but I was quite lucky because my nan looked after me where she could. She couldn't take me to live with her because she already had one of my cousins whose parent was not great. So she did. She looked after me and she fed me and stuff like that. And I suppose she was my saving grace, really.
What were you like at school?
Bullied a lot. But I was always weird. I've always been the weird girl, you know what I mean? I thought I was a horse for the first 10 years of my life, that sort of stuff. Obviously, growing up, we didn't have make trainers. Well, I didn't, my brother did. So I was always the target. I was always dirty, you know, collars on my shirt, school uniforms, filthy, because she was just off a barner 24/7.
No relationship with your mum whatsoever?
Not anymore, no. A couple of years ago, she made false allegations against me where I lost everything. I lost my house, everything that I'd worked for. And I've never had any contact with her since, to the point where I've had to block people who live next door to her just in case she gets information, because she's dangerous. She will just make random accusations.
She says she had a rough childhood growing up. I don't think anyone should have to grow up with abusive parents. It can mess you up in the long run. Molly says that she receives death threats because she's involved in a satanic cult. It's not right for no one to receive death threats, no matter their beliefs. Molly is still a human with the right to live without fear.
Feel guilty, you know, so I became quite desperate in the end, and I tried to get back into the modelling, but I was being offered really like low paid, shitty publications like the Daily Sport and stuff like that, and I just weren't willing to do it. I suppose it wasn't worth the money for me. If I was going to take my clothes off for money, it was going to be for good money. So after a while, I got that desperate, and I knew about magic. My mum had introduced me to magic when I was a kid. She'd done a ritual to save a dog that we had that involved killing a mouse that she got me to help her with when I was about 7, and it worked. So I thought, well, I'm at rock bottom. What can I do? I might as well try a bit of magic.
Molly said she had 2 kids very young with no job and no money. She claims her mom introduced her to the occult or witchcraft at a very young age. She said her mom did a ritual to save a dog they had once by killing a mouse, and it worked. The things that are done in rituals can get very disturbing. Molly claims she was at her lowest point in life, so she turned to magic. This is the worst thing you can do because it gives you false hope. If it's not God, it's not good, and it will only lead you down a dark path. People will turn to idols thinking it gives them control over situations, but it doesn't. Magic may promise help or answers, but it's dangerous and deceptive. Molly describes a ritual that was done by her mom to save a dog they once had.
The dog's supposed to go in for this operation one night, and she gets me out of bed in the middle of the night. And I was about 7, and she's done a pentagram on the living room floor, made out of a beaded curtain that we had back in the day, you know, the fly curtains. And she said, you've got to take clothes off. She was naked. She got me undressed. And I had to follow her and walk around the pentagram. And after a minute, she said some words. She took the mouse out the mop bucket and smacked it on the head with a rolling pin and killed it. Finished the ritual. I can't remember much after that because I was pretty horrified. And the day after, we get a phone call from the vet that the dog had like miraculously recovered. And I mean, the vet was gobsmacked. I remember being in the room, and she was like, we've never seen a recovery like this from such a major operation, never mind broken spine in multiple places. And my mum was there with like a cheesy grin. She thought it was great. Brought the dog home. And I suppose that's lived with me ever since, really. That was my first introduction to black magic.
She says her mother drew a pentagram on the floor where they both had to walk around it for a minute. Then they took a mouse and killed it. The next day, the vet called saying that it was a miracle that the dog was okay. The vet was super shocked, saying that they never seen a recovery like this before.
How? Hold on, bro. How? I'm saying, how? Like, talk to me, bro.
Magic is dangerous and no one should ever by any means touch it or play with it. Molly explains the ritual that she did when she was at her lowest.
And I was at rock bottom and I thought, I'll try some magic. So we did a bit of research and I was looking on the internet at Anton LaVey and Alistair Crowley's sorts of types of magic, and I took excerpts of information, and I ended up setting a ritual up. It's basically a pentagram on the floor. I had to cut myself and put blood on the points and say these words, and they were English. So I does this ritual, goes to bed thinking I'm going to wake up in the morning and I'm going to be fucking a star or something. Because it didn't ask what if a lot of people who do this type of stuff, who go into making pacts with demonics or the dark sides, will be specific. And I wasn't. I just wanted money. I didn't care how it came. So on the thing that I just wrote, I just want money and love. And that was that. So it goes to bed, I wakes up, everything's normal and nothing changes. And I left it for about a month. And I was like, that hasn't worked. I haven't done it right. So it does more research. And I must have been researching God for about 6 months. And I found bits and bobs, did another ritual a few months later, and it didn't work again. And I was like, I'm obviously really, really crap at this, and I'm not doing it right. There was no doubt in my mind that it was possible. It was just that I wasn't doing it the right way.
She said that people who make pacts with the devil will ask for something specific or something that they expect, but she just wanted money. Molly said she tried this specific ritual for months, but it never worked. She also claims that she researched about God for 6 months as well. She kept saying she must have been doing the ritual wrong because it wasn't working, but I believe that God has something to do with that because God must have had a different purpose for her. The moment we all been waiting for to hear the wildest ritual that she's seen, let's check this clip out.
And I got invited to basically another, what was called a party, about 2 months later. And it was an orgy, basically. There was girls there with nothing on, loads of fellas, all kinds of people, but them 3 men were there. And I weren't introduced to them. I didn't see them initially as we went in. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going on. It was a proper full-on orgy. Literally, there's people getting shagged everywhere. And I'm looking at the agents and I'm like, what is this? What have you brought me to? You know, I get it that some girls might be into that in this industry, but I'm not in fucking porn. Like, what is this? And I wasn't doing any like nude stuff, modelling. I was doing really tasteful, nice stuff. And he was like, oh, don't worry about it, don't worry about this. Again, you've got to come to these places, you've got to get to know these people, you've got to rub shoulders with the right people to get get your work, basically. And I was like, this seems mad. Anyway, the night goes on, everyone's fucking off the faces, pissed, and this big fella walks in, big beard, with no t-shirt on, with a pair of shorts on. And this girl's linked in his arm. She's fucked. Absolutely. She can barely walk. He's holding her up. And he brings it into like a table like this that's in the middle of like a hall. And there's other bits of tables around it, but this one had just been left empty. No one had touched it. There was no drinks on it, no nothing. And as I've walked in, he's picked her up and threw her on the table. So she's sat on the table like this. She's got all to the backside of it and her feet are hanging over the other side. It's like a bevel glass table. Sit like a square, and it spins, and he starts spinning her until she's bleeding from holding onto it, getting faster and faster. And as he's spinning the table, everyone starts gathering around in a circle. So I naturally do, I just follow the agents, and he's saying this chant again. It's a Latin chant, and I'm thinking, oh, this is fucking mad. Again, there's all still people doing all kinds of weird stuff behind me that aren't part of this circle. And I had like this blood going everywhere. I mean everywhere. Her hands were cut, her arms were cut, her feet, upper legs, her ankles. And after a minute, he just stops it dead sudden, picks her up, throws her over her shoulder and walks out with her. And the agent goes, come on, madam. And I'm like, in shock. thinking this is fucking mad. Maybe this is just what rich people do with their money. And we're in a cab on the way back. And I was like, what the fuck was that? What have you got me into? And he went, are you in our club or what? And I was like, what fucking club are you on about? This is mad. Like, what were they doing? What's he doing with it? But what was interesting is as we've come out to get into the cab, you can hear him fucking her. But he was saying something, and you could hear him like fucking going at it, you know what I mean? But every time you could hear a thrust, he was saying something as he was doing it. And like I was making, like, he must have seen how shocked I was, the agents, and he was making a joke about going, they're together, they're in a relationship, stop sweating, like, you know, people have got weird fantasies that they like to fulfill. And I was like, yeah, but in front of everyone, making a bleed, like, what's all that about? And he's laughing, and like laughing at me, where I felt like very small at that point. And I'm thinking, oh, I've got myself into some weird ass fucking shit here. I didn't think for 1 minute it was what it was. I just thought these are all just weird people with too much money. So you've got to do this stuff. And the day after, he sent me another message. It was a text message saying, are you in our club or what? And I just wrote back, yeah. This thing used to take over a little bit. And every ounce of my body, every cell in my body went, no.
As we can see, Molly didn't know what she got herself into. She didn't expect to see all these wild things that rich people do with their money or their time. These powerful people were into these sick things because it was a ritual being done. After that night, Molly's agent asked her, is she a part of the club yet? And she wanted to say no, but the dark spirit that Molly gave access to said yes. Molly also mentions Freemasonry symbols and decorations in a party. Check this out.
That one. And as I've walked into another room, we've come out the games room, we've been taken into another room, there's a checkerboard marble floor. And in the floor is a big, massive, what is actually, it's not a pentagram, it's called a unicursal hexagram.
Freemasons.
You've heard of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's something that Crowley uses.
Yeah, Freemasons.
Yeah. And there's one of them, and they start putting on these cloaks, the fellas, the women don't put one on. And they all stand in a circle, and he's lighting these candles. They were on like 3 candelabras in 3 points around this hexagram. And he goes round and he's saying words and he's touching people on the head as he goes round, does it to me. And then everyone takes hands, and I'm stood next to the fella of the couple who's leading this ritual. And this girl next to me takes my hand, so I've got all there on, but he doesn't take it. And he walks into the middle, takes a knife out of his pocket, and it was, I can still remember it like it was yesterday, it had a deer horn as its handle. And he takes the knife out and he nicks it on, he starts on that side on the left of me, touches her finger with the knife just so it bleeds a little bit, and goes through each person until he comes to me and he says, step forward. So he steps forward into the pentagram and he's looking at me, and I can't quite see his face because he's put a veil over it, and I'm thinking, but I can see these eyes, and his eyes have gone black. He had blue eyes initially, and his eyes were black as night, and I'm thinking, is it the light, is it this, is it that? And then he turns his back to me and he blows out a couple of the candles, and as he does, you can see a very, very blatant shape of Baphomet's head appear over the hexagram from what he'd done with the light. He turns around to me, he cuts me behind my ear, he takes the blood drip that's on the end of his knife and he pops it directly in the middle of the hexagram, where basically the middle of Baphomet's head shadow is.
This is very interesting because masonry involves rituals done in secret, so no one really knows what's going on. I'm not surprised, but for her to mention this specific group of people, it shows that they are really into some really dark stuff. We shouldn't ignore these warnings either. Molly had gotten so deep into this cult that dark spirits were able to possess her. This is a reminder that evil hides in plain sight. Light exposes what darkness tries to hide. Let me know what you guys think of this video, man. God bless.